Hey, everybody, welcome back to the podcast. This is a very different episode, which you will be used to on a Monday. I'm decided to do a Ask Me Anything. So, yesterday I mentioned that I was going to be doing a podcast about alcohol, which will be coming at some point. But today I started recording it, and to be honest, I was struggling to put it together, and I realized it's like a really big topic for me. And what I don't want to do is do it at a disservice and not cover the extent and all the different nuances that come with a difficult relationship with alcohol and my journey. So I'm going to park that one, and that will be coming. But we are going to be getting into some of the questions that you all sent me. And so we'll get into a lot of stuff regarding alcohol. And so here we go. Let's get into it. Kate says, how do you ensure you are authentic with an audience without performance? Really good question. Thank you. It's really difficult. Like right now, I'm doing it now. Like it's fucking weird. Like I'm sat in this room on my own, looking through this like black lens thing there, and trying to just be authentic, but like not a complete drag or not say stuff that I don't mean. So it is constant work. I think it's much easier uh, doing it when when there's another person there versus like just doing it into this lens here. But I am doing my best to be authentic right now about being authentic. But I think it's allowing some space before you talk, which may seem counterintuitive because you might say, well, you should just jump in with whatever comes to mind. But some of that is like more kind of like neurotic or just kind of like old pathways or whatever. Like, how do I really feel? Like, how do I really feel about this thing? Rather than just having like a stock response or whatever. So I think allowing space, which is obviously something that you can work on through doing meditation and being more mindful. But yeah, um, I don't think I perform. I I think it's a really difficult one, because sometimes I will say I'm being authentic, but then I'm like, am I just being kind of grumpy? So I have to have like somewhat of a smile on my face now, and I'm like freaking out now because I'm just like, oh, I got what the fuck am I saying? I'm so yeah, it's a difficult one. Allow space and just be you, and whatever is like, yeah, you have to become self-aware, I think, to know what the truth is, if that makes sense, if that's not a bit too deep. But yeah, um fucking really good question, really good one. So I think that answers it. Anyways, I should have started with an easier one. Inverted Mouse says, what's the hardest part of social sobriety? By social sobriety, I suppose it means, I said he because I know who it is. Um, Drinking, going out drinking when you're not a drinker. I would say the first like pub or the first drink, is usually the most difficult. Not because I would be like, oh, I really want to have a beer. Like that just doesn't happen. But like, just like the social awkwardness of the situation. But we all, there's a little fly on me drink. Fuck off. We all get that, don't we? Like when you go to a social occasion and it's kind of a little bit awkward at first and you don't know anyone, and then it's like, hey, let's get a drink. So yeah, and literally I experienced that last night because I went on a night out, and after the first one, I was kind of like, everyone was like sat around and no one was like really talking. I was like, this is shit, and I was just thinking, right, I'm gonna like totally make a dart out of here soon. And then I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's other people, like because they loosen up a little bit, and then it allows me to loosen up, or whether if everyone was sober. I feel like it's probably this. Like if everyone was sober, just after time, you start to get used to it. And I do find that I feel like you can get kind of like drunk off the atmosphere, like in kind of like a giddy way. Um, So yeah, hardest bit is the first one. It's just like anything, like getting out the door to go for a run, or I could be getting out of the bed in the morning, whatever it is. Like that, just doing the first thing, the first rep or whatever. So I need to remind myself of that myself. Like if I go on a night out, just get like 2 pubs down before you decide that you're going to go. Thank you for that question. Hyrox Hour. Top 3 tips for someone training / taking on Hyrox for the first time that you got from a 130-ish from memory to the cusp of a sub 110. Right, okay, so he's referring to like, yeah, my first Hyrox was like 130, and I'm going for a sub 110. I got a sub 115 last year. Top 3 tips. The biggest one would be get a coach or get a plan, some sort of specialized help, invest in a coach, or buy a specific Hyrox training plan. That's definitely number one. Number 2, diet. Yeah, like good food. Like with Hyrox, if you're on a good plan, you will be loading up your legs and everything a lot. Certainly in the last like 2-3 weeks of the plan, maybe sooner, depending on your coach. You'll start to build up like 3-4 days on the bounce of hard Hyrox sessions where your legs are just getting hammered. And the idea, if you were a beginner, like you do one of those sessions and you'd be sore for like a week. When you're getting up to like peak performance, you're doing those sessions like every day on the bounce for like 3-4 days, and then maybe not even having a day off. Maybe you're going into then doing another form of conditioning work. So I found on those, that was when the diet really came in. The food has got to be on point. Make sure you're not spiking your glucose levels. I mean, to be honest, like you're going to be training that much, it's not that much of a big deal. But in terms of what's like coming in when you're resting and stuff, you don't want to just be eating shit, because that's problematic. So yeah, lots of protein and carbs and good fats, and yeah, so that's yeah, good diet. And number 3, I'm thinking about this because there's so many different ways we can go. Pretty obvious. Sleep, nail your sleep. Yeah, I think when I was probably getting like 8.5 to 9 hours of sleep around that time. When I did my PB, yeah, I was sleeping a lot. So yeah. So what was that again? It was get a coach, eat right, and sleep like fuck. Nadia says, do you have sober people you look up to that had an influence on your journey? Yes. I would say the first person was Russell Brand. Obviously, very prominent in the sobriety sort of sphere. And yeah, it was like really, really helpful to have someone to look up to. I think it's really necessary. Like maybe you've got someone to look up to in your community, or maybe you don't, and you can seek them out online in the form of podcasters or celebrities or whatever. Yeah, Russell Brand was great, and he's got a book called Recovery, which was useful, which is like based on like the 12 steps from AA. Some of it was a bit kind of, but just in general, you know, getting tapped into his story. Less so these days, but like you swap these things out. Like the stuff that got you to where you are today isn't necessarily the thing that's going to get you to the next place. And like right now, it's like Andrew Huberman, like Chris Williamson, and they're not. Neither of them drink. Or Chris Williamson does, I think, on occasion, but they're like they weren't alcoholics, or they weren't that. So there's something about that I like. They're like, oh, here's a like a upstanding guy in the community who doesn't drink, but it isn't like a big deal. Like, oh, like, you know, because like Russell Brand is kind of the over end of it. You know, when you're part of AA and stuff, it is like kind of your life. But I kind of like it as just like, I don't drink, but it's not really talked about. And that gives it, I feel, like more power because it has less of an attachment to your identity. So yeah, so there's 3. Nadia also says, was there a specific event that made you change your mind about drinking? I think it was a collection. I think it was a collection of events all throughout my life. You know, something would always happen like once a year, like some fucking crazy night, and I'd upset someone. So I had to deal with that all my life, and I think those things like accumulated. You know, I was like earning interest on all of that fucking shit. So yeah, I don't know if I could point to like a singular. Like I had a breakup. So that was probably like that was more like a watershed moment. It wasn't necessarily the reason why. Like I'd always kind of had it in my head, like, oh, this thing like might be an issue. I just forget about it. Have another drink. Come on from work and like, oh yeah, fuck it, I'll have a beer. So I don't think so. I'm trying to be like fully authentic there. No, I don't think so. It's a culmination of lots of stupid behavior and beer fear. Sam says, question, you've got to give Donald Trump a blowjob, but luckily you've got 2 options. First 70% or the last 30%. What does that mean? Oh, right. Right. So are we saying like I've got to suck him off? So if it takes him like if it takes him 10 minutes to come, the first 70%, are we saying that's 7 minutes of cock sucking, and then or the last 30%, or 3 minutes, but he's gonna explode in my gob? First 70%, please, Sam. Yeah, you can gobble down the rest. Joey. Joey says, why do humans seek meaning? It's more like it. Bloody hell. I think it's all to do with death, isn't it? Like the fear of death. Like even if you don't admit it, I think all of us have an inherent fear of death. It's just built in, and and I think that manifests in many ways. And I think meaning is like meaning, like for me, feels like you're doing something that's going to hang around. It's going to hang around after you've gone. It's going to leave a legacy. Like, yeah, I think so. That and like, what's the opposite? What would be the opposite of like not seeking meaning? It's a really good one. It's a really good one. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say, anyways, because I'll be here fucking pondering for forever. This is also Joey. He sent a few. As self-help people, we can tend to forget life is suffering. Discuss. As self-help people, we can tend to forget life is suffering. Discuss. Yeah. I suppose what you're alluding to is there's a lot of talk about how to be happy and optimize for everything. Um, but I think there is like a counter to that with like certainly in like the David Goggins sort of sphere, like the getting after it, the like being in the suck. This is nothing to do with Donald Trump. Like the suck of like the workout and like grinding through. Like I'm kind of into that, and like the whole kind of like somewhat stoic approach. Um, so I don't know. I like. I feel like I've got that one. Like life is suffering. Yeah, we need to. Yeah, we've got to go through pain to get the ups. Like what goes up must come down, and what goes down must come up. So like to have that equilibrium or equanimity, like we have to have the suffering. So choose what you're going to suffer for. There you go. That's ending it on a nice crunchy landing. Or I've just totally like fucking not understood that. Uh, and Joey also says how to deal with death and dying. Nice light ones. um, I've like had to deal with this like fairly recently. Like a couple of my grandparents pass away in like the last 3 years. I've been quite good at it. Like, I have death tattooed on my wrist. Because I think about it quite a lot. I think about the impermanence of our existence, and we're only here once and stuff. And I think we just have to be. And I suppose you're meaning like other people dying around us. You just have to be like grateful that they were there in the first place. I think gratitude is a big one for this. Like, at least you got to spend that time with them. At least they were around. And like, I'm not necessarily religious. I wouldn't even say I was spiritual. I don't know. The word spirituality needs a rebrand. But like, I think there's something going on with like when you think about a person after they've gone, you can kind of like bring them back into your mind, and you can like, if I could close my eyes now and like I can hear my nana's voice, and I can almost like smell like the soap that she had at house, and all these beautiful things that I was so grateful to have. Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, like they are here, but like, what does that really mean? Like, are they here? That they are within you in some way. I mean, they are like, we are the same DNA, and I don't know. There's some magic there, isn't there? Um, like, why can I feel that sensation? Like, I really think about it. I'm really like sit and like I've got all like goosebumpy now. Like, I could just imagine just stood there, and what is that? Like, that's something. So yeah, whether I'll see them again, I don't know. But what option have we got? Like, is just gonna be sad all the time? That's not, it's not something I've suffered with. Like, I've suffered with lots of, like sadness and depression, but like that side of things, I've always been all right. I don't know. I've got like a fairly okay relationship with it. Um. So yeah, gratitude and thinking about them. Kaylee says, your biggest challenge to date? Uh, these are hard. Like, I thought this was going to be dead easy, but like, fucking hell. Biggest challenge to date. I think probably getting over like the the family element of my last breakup. And I guess what I mean by that is uh, I had I had a stepdaughter, and that was all around like the time that like I decided to quit drinking after that, and yeah, that was really fucking hard, um, because like I never said goodbye to her, I got this tattoo for her afterwards because she used to like this character, and it was always like if she ever like sought me out at some point, if maybe she still remembered me, that I wanted her to know that I would never forget her, and that's not changed since like 4 years ago, whatever it is. Yeah, I would still, want to talk to her. Yeah, but that's a difficult situation, and yeah, that was difficult because you're just out of the life. And I remember thinking like what does she think? Like that like there was no explanation, and yeah, like I'm over it now, obviously, but that thinking about it now, but yeah, it was just like such a weird time. Whereas I kind of thought like I'd had my life sort of like kind of planned out, like I was engaged and stuff, and then yeah, it all ended like amicably, and yeah, and then I was just kind of like back at my dad's house and kind of like aware that there was this thing with drink that maybe needed to be sorted out, and my business was failing at the time, and there was all that, and yeah, like fucking hell, yeah, that was a really really big challenge, like that like whole time, and yeah, so here we go. Kaylee also says your biggest inspiration and your biggest achievement. Inspiration and biggest, is that two one question? Your biggest inspiration, is that like who is my biggest inspiration? So who is let's go with that one. Who is my biggest inspiration? I think it's a combination of things, but I guess the obvious one would be Chris Williamson. Yeah, he's a very successful podcaster. What I liked about him was I just come across his stuff. I think he was like in some sort of article, and this was before he was like pretty famous, and they were saying how he was this guy that had been on Love Island and he'd reinvented himself. He used to run nightclubs and stuff, and I was kind of like, and I got this thing because I'd been on Naked Attraction and I used to run a venue, and I was kind of like, oh, that's like kind of sounds like me. Very different. His nightclub business was very successful, and Love Island is a bit bigger than Naked Attraction. But yeah, and so I come across this guy, and I don't know, he was just like, he just seemed like a really good masculine influence. Like he was a bit more kind of straight laced, and just kind of like I was like, oh, like, can you say that? And kind of and he was just like a bit. He was direct and assertive, and I was like, okay, like you don't really like see that, but he was really intelligent with it, and yeah, so huge inspiration for me. I absolutely love his work, and I do my best to try not to appear like I'm mimicking him when I'm doing my podcast introductions and stuff. But it's hard when you take inspiration from someone. So hopefully, I'm giving my authentic blend of my various inspirations, including Chris Williamson. And your biggest achievement? Hmm. Good question. This is a difficult one, really, because I could say like my Hyrox PB and stuff, which was big. No, it's got to be sobriety, surely. Yeah, definitely. There was something else I was thinking of, like when I set up my live music business, but yeah, sobriety, like hands down, that was the hardest thing. Such a lonely path. Just totally fucking raw dogging it. Didn't go to AA and just listen to podcasts and stuff, and it felt, yeah, very, very fucking lonely, and it was a difficult road. So that was my biggest achievement. Kaylee sent a few, so I'm going to go through it. One more. Dream dinner date guest. I struggle with this one. Like, Chris Williamson would be good, but if it's alive or dead, like, I feel like I'll meet him at some point. I've already met him, but I feel like, when the podcast gets successful or whatever, I'll sit him down, we'll have a chat. Yeah, and so it's got to be someone dead, hasn't it? Right. So let's think of someone dead who would be good. Hitler would be interesting, wouldn't it? Churchill, surely. Like, that'd be good, wouldn't it? I think Winston Churchill or John Lennon. Churchill or John Lennon, probably. But I feel like George Harrison would be sound of the Beatles. Winston Churchill, like, I feel like, yeah, I'd be on the no secco and he'd be on his little bottles of champs. Okay. Fucking hell. The alcohol ones are difficult. I'm like, send me all your alcohol stuff. And I'm like, fuck's sake. Shay, how many times did you relapse and why? Relapse is like a funny old term, isn't it? Like, from the time I quit drinking like 3 years ago, I had a few times where I started drinking again, but it wasn't like a relapse, like it was like a lapse of judgment. Like, every time I did it was like I thought it through. Like, for like a week, I'd ask my friends, "What do you think?" I'm thinking about like coming back to drinking. So it was very like kind of structured. What happened after that was not, but like, so I wouldn't class them as relapses because I was cognizant of like what I was doing. But yeah, I think I'll tell you about a time when I think I'd already started drinking in the December. I was dating a girl and we just sort of like, I decided to start having some drinks. It was kind of going okay. And I remember I was coming home from the gym on a Friday night and I was like, oh, like I remember when like I used to come home from the gym on a Friday back in the day and I'd get a bottle of red from the shop and some like dark chocolate and I'd have that like with my dinner. And it was just like the nicest thing. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to fucking do that. And so I did that. And at the time I was doing, I was drinking, I think, a pint of water in between every glass of wine. And that seemed to go well. And I watched this film and I only had the bottle, which some people say would be quite a lot. And I drank so it was a bottle of wine, but I'd spaced it out throughout the night. I felt a little bit rough the next day, but for me that was actually not too bad. And then, but this is what happens. So then I go, well, that worked. Like, I'm going to do it again tonight. Like, why wouldn't you do it every night? Why wouldn't you do it again? So the next night I did it, and I was like, I'll just make sure I'm drinking a glass of water in between every one. And somehow I managed to, next minute it was like 4 a.m, and I was going down to the 2-4 garage for my 4th bottle of wine. Staying up all night, talking to girls on Tinder, just like constant like stuff coming in, dopamine. Yeah, crazy. So that was definitely a relapse, and like around that Christmas, and yeah, I was a fucking mess. So and why did I relapse? Yeah, old habits or whatever. And I think as a wider point as to like why I started drinking, I think I just felt like I'd missed out on somewhere. Like I wanted to date, I wanted to be like a normal person, and I felt that I needed that, but I don't. Jenna says, "Do you have a morning routine?" Yes. Um, so I wake up every day at 6:50. I go downstairs. I make up 3 of these glass Kilner jars, not affiliated. I line up 3 of them and like a protein shaker, steel one, so it's not plastic, so you're getting the BPAs and stuff like that. And put all the water in them. I put some electrolytes, just basic bulk, unflavored electrolytes in each of them and in the metal shaker. And then I put some, it's kind of expensive and I don't know if it's working, but Huel Daily Greens goes in. Literally, I don't know where it's working. It's really expensive. And I have a cheaper greens one, which is just like minging mud water, which definitely seems like it's doing something because it tastes minging. And I put some of that in with that mixer. I'm doing 12 grams of creatine at the moment a day, which is quite a lot, but apparently it's good for brain health, so I'm giving that a go. So I put 6 grams in there, and then I have Clear Whey, my protein Clear Whey, and like the orange or the apple one is good. I've got peach at the moment because it was on offer. And then I put about 30 to 35 grams of protein in there. So apparently, like that's how much you need to like kickstart the protein synthesis or whatever in the morning. Yeah, kickstart like your metabolism. Stick that in there, shake it up. And then what I'm trying to do as much as I can, I try and do some sort of workout, even if it's small, before every meal, just to kind of like uptake of glucose. And the idea being like if you're like opening up the like the cells, that's more likely for the protein to like shut into the muscles. So what I'm doing at the moment is it's dead basic, but I have my hands in the air because it's a bit like a wall ball for Hyrox. So it's just kind of helping with that. Hands in the air, holding it like that. So I've got to hold them. And then I do just air squats without weight, as many as I can until they're screaming. I don't do more than one set. I just do one. And I'm doing like 45 of them at the moment. And then that's about it. Got a little bit of a pant on. And then I neck the protein, the electrolytes, all that good stuff. Then stick my shoes on, my barefoot shoes, and have a walk around the block. It's about 10 minutes, and I try and get sunlight in my eyes, which is a little clears out the adenosine, which is this thing that makes you tired, gets rid of that. And I will try and get like quite a lot of the sun. So if the sun is coming up over the hill, this is also what I do is I do some shoulder mobility while I'm walking. I always feel dead awkward. So as I'm walking along the road, I'll do 10 like big circles with my arms forward and then 10 back. And I like really try and engage, push right back, get the scapula and all that in. So people like see me and I'm just like waving my arms about, looking like I'm shitting my pants. But yeah, that's also like a little bit of a like thingy challenge where like make yourself feel uncomfortable, because I could walk past people and they're just like, what the fuck is he doing? But I do it regardless. And yeah, try and like get as much sun in my eyes as possible. So if it is actually like the sun's coming up, I'll kind of just look at it, and my like um my goal is to try and sneeze twice. So like look at it and I'll be like, like honestly, and like usually the sun is like slightly off center, so I'm walking down the road after I've done my arm circles, and I'm like looking out. If anyone's walking towards me, I'm like looking and like squinting at the sun. Fucking madman. Don't look directly at the sun, folks. Guys, who says folks? See, I'm being all American. Be authentic, Jason. And so yeah, and then if it's overcast or whatever, I will just like look at where the sun normally is, or I'll like look. I'll put my head back and like I'm walking, and I'll just try and get as much in my eyes. Like you can really feel it like getting into your like receptors. And if anyone doesn't know, it's because solar angle controls your circadian rhythm. It's kind of like a marker for the start of the day to allow your body to know that it's the start of the day, and roughly in 16 hours time you're going to be going to bed. So doing that in the morning will help you sleep. You can hear all about that on Andrew Human's podcast. And if it's raining, I'll go out in the rain. Don't know what I'm going to be doing in winter. In the winter, I'll probably go in the bin, my ice bath bin. I'm not doing that at the moment. Get back home, and then I get in, and then put the kettle on. I grind my own coffee beans. I don't grow the beans, buy the beans in. I sometimes get them from Exhale, but they're expensive. So it'll be a mix. Sometimes it's cheap shit or whatever, but I'll always grind my own. Then I'll put in some L-theanine, which kind of like it's L-theanine is the extract that's found in tea and in green tea, which kind of gives you like that kind of like relaxed feeling. So stick that in with the coffee. It allows you to like have a bit more. It feels a bit floaty. And what else goes in there? And then if I can afford it, I have collagen, hydrolyzed beef collagen from Hunter Gather. It's called bovine, which is basically like unflavored. But it's actually like all right. Like you wouldn't think it would taste all right. It's kind of like tastes like nothing / creamy. So that goes in. Stick that in the big old cafetiere. It's like this big. If anyone's listening, it's like I don't know, my head in a bit. And then cold shower, always cold. I use Bare Bar soap. Christian, shout out to Christian. And yeah, and then after that, what we're doing, get dressed. Sit down with my coffee, and then I will listen to something before I meditate. So I might be like, usually something like, ideally something kind of like philosophically, something a bit kind of like not challenging, but just kind of a little bit like open the mind up a little bit. The best source for that is the Waking Up app, which is Sam Harris's meditation app. And he has like philosophers in there doing talks and stuff. So I'll listen to like maybe like a 10-minute clip, something a little bit different. And then I'll do a meditation, and I'll just shuffle different types. So yeah, I'm doing a new one course on them at the moment. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, I used to use Headspace. Headspace like is really good, but it's like kind of weird. I feel like it's going to like really woke. I went to use it the other day, and it was first started by this guy called Andy. Andy, can't remember his name. Well, let's find out. Andy Headspace. Space. Andy Puddicombe. Yeah, there's an English guy who set it up, and he used to be like the main guy, and he'd be like, I can't do an impression of it. I just had this really soft, when we're training the mind. It was like a nice voice. Some people didn't like it. I liked it. And then they started changing. They brought in different voices, sort of. So they brought in a woman, and then they brought in like a woman of color, and then there was like a guy of color, man of color. Why does that sound weird? And by the way, I'm not like, that's awesome. I wasn't saying that was woke. And then I noticed some stuff that they were saying, and then I went to use it the other day, and instead of having a choice, so you could change who was reading it to you. And by the way, I would mix it up. I sometimes have the black woman. I sometimes have Andy. Like, I'll mix it up. No judgment, whatever choice you have. And then I feel like this is fucking weird territory now. And they've changed it to this like generic name, which is like it's not a person, and I think it must be AI generated, and it's like a merged being. So if you listen to it, her, him, I think it's a like he, she, they, them, an AI they, them that's also black and also white. Fuck knows. Literally, when you're listening, you're kind of like, you can't actually tell. Like, bizarre. So side note on that. So I don't know what's going on with Headspace. So I'm on Waking Up app. I do a meditation, usually about 10 to 15 minutes. And then after that, it's long, this, isn't it? It's 2 hours long, my morning routine. And I don't even really work out. It's not like, yeah. And then I will, I have this seconds timer, which is on my Android. And I have custom like things set up so that it shouts something out like every 30 seconds. I'll give you an example. Morning to do reflection full. So it's a 10-minute thing. And then, so like there's a 30 seconds thing where it says, let's see if it reads. Oh, here we go.
Think about how you will feel when you publish 50 podcast episodes.
So I think about how I'll feel when I've published 50 podcast episodes. And sometimes that used to be like, think about how you'll feel when you stop publishing podcast episodes. So allow me to, so just, it like activates that little bit of motivation. So it's like a positive one. And then I have like other ones in there, and just like prompts, like my daily prompts. So it's just an easy way of doing like my daily tasks. So I've like, we'll look ahead 3 days for 25 seconds. So I'll just go in my calendar and I'll just like, look, what have I got on? Check and start emails. So I'll go into my Gmail. I'll like look through anything that might need my attention. I'll star it. Then I've unsubscribed to 5 emails. That's for 30 seconds. I'll go through, I'll unsubscribe, quickly respond to the starred emails. So go into the starred tasks, and then I look on there. And then if there's any that I can quickly respond to, I will do it. And then if not, I'll add any starred emails into my tasks, to my Google tasks, because it integrates with Gmail. And then I've set up an integration, a 2-way one using Zapier, that adds it into my TickTick, which is a productivity app that I use. But you could just use it straight out of Google Tasks. And then more of that sort of stuff. And then it's just like, what's the most important thing to do today? Like delete some tasks, get rid of old ones, is there anything? And then, yeah. So, and then send one podcast invite. That's like one of my daily things. So I'll do that, and then I'll probably have a poo, and then it's time to go to work. And yeah, so that's my morning routine. Fucking hell, that's like, I don't know how long that was. Like 15 minutes talking about this. I'm just seeing if someone had sent me a question there. Right. What's next? 50 minutes. How much time have we got left? It's getting late. Rob says, best series of all time, Game of Thrones. That's it. Game of Thrones. Adam, what's your hopes for the podcast? To get better and bigger guests, continue to get better and bigger guests, to grow the listenership, and to one day do it full time and get paid for it. Dan says, how many days AF are you? I'll call free. Don't know. I don't really count anymore. So that's been like a big part of my like recovery journey, has been kind of just kind of letting go of that a little bit. I know the date, like I do have the good date in my calendar, like March last year. So I can kind of roughly say it was like 16 months, something like that. But yeah, I think if you identify too much with like being sober and stuff like that, for me, it didn't work. It worked for a bit, and then I was kind of like, I need to like lessen the like alcohol thing. So yeah, so I've not really spoken about it like that much, but like, I'm like feeling really fucking solid in my sobriety at the moment, so I'm happy to like talk about it a bit more and sort of lean into it, and ask you guys like if you've got any questions. But yeah, so it might not work for you, but for me, honestly, I'm not really counting. But like when it comes up to like 2 years or whatever, I might do a little celebration, might put a little Instagram post out. We'll see. But yeah, just don't drink. And also, the first time I actually stopped drinking was like 3 years ago. So I kind of sometimes think of that, like just because you stop drinking. Just because you start drinking in between those periods doesn't mean that you've not been a drinker for 3 years, if that makes sense. Anyways, sorry, I'm getting tired now. Right, okay, yeah, I saved this one to last. This is from Anonymous. I have questions about why you stopped drinking. Was it about you and for you? Would you had stopped, for example, if someone you deeply cared about told you they thought you had an issue? I'm asking this anonymously, so if you want to include it in a podcast. Reason I ask is my mum was an alcoholic, died when I was 21. Fucking hell. And I spent all of my childhood looking after her, and I tried everything to get her to stop drinking. And subsequently, I've had my own issues stemming from this, always believing I'm not good enough. So that's my question. I'm sure someone else will ask you the same. Fucking hell. I'm so sorry that you've had to go through that. That sounds horrific and dwarfs any like experience that I've had. So let me break this up. Was it about you and for you? Yes. Yes, it was about me and for me. I would always say that the drinking was the one thing stopping me from the man that I wanted to become. The man that I always wanted to be, and also like I was acting out of alignment with my values. Like I would say I was this, and that, and this upstanding guy and stuff, but then when I was drinking, like those would slide. So yeah, so it was definitely like a thing for me. Would you have stopped, for example, if someone you cared deeply about told you they thought you had an issue? Right. Okay. I see now. I'd like to think so. My last relationship, my ex actually would bring it up. And I didn't think it was like a massive thing at the time, but like I was drinking a lot, and yeah, some like not great behavior. I was just in a bad place. I was like in a really difficult place, and I didn't know who I was. I didn't have any confidence. Um, sorry, I'm trying to keep this focused, but I'm like trying to think of like, I'm trying to really answer your question. Um, I guess yes, but then when I was in that relationship, I didn't stop drinking. So, maybe not. I don't know. I'd like to think so, but I don't want to be a hypochondriac. Hypochondriac. I don't want to be what's the fucking word? A hypocrite. Uh, so yeah, that's a difficult pill to swallow. But I did eventually. I suppose would be my thing. Um, yeah, fucking hell. And then the rest of it isn't a question, but I was just kind of like, I think, I think ultimately they have to come to it on their own at their own pace. Um, like yeah, I came to the realization on my own, but like yeah, it was likely a culmination of things that people have said to me over the years or whatever, and saying that I need to get my shit together. Um, but yeah, I'm so sorry that you've gone through that. And like drop me a message like about your drinking and stuff, and we'll have a chat. Um, because yeah, there's a yeah, it's just such a difficult one. And I want to be respectful. But yeah, as always, like seek out help. You know, like all the usual means, AI stuff like that. Like I have my ways of dealing with things, and I didn't go to AA and stuff, but you might need to. Not necessarily you, by the way, anyone listening. Um, yeah, so that's the mall. 57 minutes. So I hope that was interesting, like useful. Thank you so much for everyone sending the questions. A little bit last minute. I should be back to having a guest next week. I do have episodes recorded and ready to go, but I've had some serious issues with Riverside FM and things going out of sync. So if anyone knows anyone at Riverside, a little upvote to help Jason and fix his recordings would be great. But yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for all your support. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Drop me a comment, drop me a DM, and yeah, make sure you like and subscribe, all that jazz. And have a wonderful week. And yeah, be kind to people. See you later.